Well, good morning, everybody. And as we start off today, I want to begin with yesterday's satellite imagery, just as the sun was setting here. A couple of important things to take note of in this pattern. We're going to see several stalled out frontal boundaries sitting up over parts of the Ohio Valley into parts of Mid-Atlantic and Southeast coming up. And that's going to primarily be because of the storm track coming through the Canadian Prairie, wrapping up around the Hudson Bay. Interestingly enough, part of the flow coming into the southwest monsoon, which we can see here, is actually going to help some of the rainfall later this week in parts of the Midwest. There's actually a little shortwave here that's going to get absorbed into the flow, and I'm going to have to watch that very carefully because the western Corn Belt, with this pattern of a ridge redeveloping here, is really going to possibly struggle with drought redevelopment. I'll talk more about that in a second. But what really caught my eye last night was this storm, because I could see it from my house. I live about here, and over parts of southeastern Illinois, the storm popped, and then watching the infrared, ready? All night long, that storm just stayed put. It's still here. And even as the sun is rising this morning, we continue to see storms building down this same line. Now, there were other storm complexes across the country that deserved equal attention, but what really caught my eye here was that this is now this particular region. Watch this. As I animate this, here comes this storm. Here it is. Watch how it just sits over that same location. Again, why I'm focusing on it is that some places right in here, like in Jasper County, Illinois, saw over 10 inches of rain so far. And if you notice at the very end of this animation, which is to present early this morning, there is more storms building down this stationary boundary. And that's what I'm most concerned about going forward in this forecast. This is an area that's seen a tremendous amount of flooding as of late. So bigger picture with the models, they have continued to keep the wetter conditions in the Ohio River Valley. There's still quite a bit of moisture coming up on the trade winds here, and that southwest monsoon is cranking. Our concern has always been the plains and the western Corn Belt, but the latest model trend, this morning's 0Z run, did improve rainfall chances, for example, in parts of Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, western Illinois, and Missouri, even into parts of Nebraska as well. And that's good given the strength of the ridge that we do expect to redevelop here. It's also good because some of the latest data from the CPC, shown here on the left, which looks at the August 9th through August 15th hazards outlook for excessive heat. And then as you notice the color down here, this is rapid drought onset. This is where they were concerned most about that. Seeing the better chances of rainfall out of two fronts this week, one on Wednesday and then another one on Saturday, really starts to just kind of improve the odds of beating away this bigger risk of drought. Doesn't mean it's not there, but it at least improves the odds. And I'm focusing on that because that was the area that the latest U.S. drought assessment suggested that we're going to see drought likely developing here between August, September, and October. So we're just focusing on this region for that primary purpose. We know that because of the La Nina we're currently experiencing, that this section of the country, historically, given August La Ninas in the past, tends to have the greatest risk given the position of the ridge. But I think overall we're going to see a better situation playing out, and this is why. Straight out of my report this morning, you notice I've got this large area of the next 3 days where I suggest there's isolated storm complexes, and they're going to hit some sort of stalled out frontal boundary that's going to sit right in through here on an active Canadian storm track. That's your next 3 days, and then toward the weekend, we have another round of that coming through. So despite the heat that is going to build in here at times this week, could we deliver the moisture? It's a possibility. And just think about the reasons why. We've not cut off the Gulf of Mexico, so there's still plenty of moisture pouring to the north. And this is the time of year that this part of the western Corn Belt, we're evaporating 2,000 to 4,000 gallons of water a day out of the cornfields just due to where they currently sit with biomass. So that's really important moisture that can get recycled. And why it's important is we do see the heat risk at this time. So there are wildfire risk into this area. This is all where there's red flag warnings. And then we have several states in the Midwest that have heat advisories right now. And if we just think about this precipitation pattern that could come through and knock some of this heat out, this is what it looks like. So we're going to do this pretty quickly here. Notice the Canadian storm track through Tuesday, getting into Wednesday. Here's that front that's slicing through on Wednesday. Now, the models don't look like much right there, do they? But we need to watch to see on Wednesday how much rain we actually get out of it. Now, that front stalls throughout Thursday, right in through here as the next Canadian storm takes place. And by the way, the whole time this is occurring, storms in the southeast, southwest monsoon cranks, in fact, pulls its moisture pretty far to the north into Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. But that next Canadian storm goes through late this week into the weekend. And see the front that it draws through? That's going to push against, again, that moisture coming from the Gulf, the scattered storms here in the eastern Corn Belt and the Ohio Valley. And that's that improved rainfall chance coming through on Saturday we've now seen in the last couple of models. We will anticipate that boundary stalling out this weekend into early next week, again over this same region, which is why we see the highest probability of getting an inch of rain in Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and surrounding states. The question is, how far back here do we get it? Because the models improve this to a 50 to 60% chance of seeing that. Now, from Texas to the northern plains, that's an area where there'll be isolated storm complexes, but much lower probability of widespread heavy rainfall. But the southwest monsoon continues to churn, and there's your Canadian storm track. Now, thinking about that, I do want to point out that even out into the middle of the month, our ridge still sits in place here. And this will be conducive to those ridge-riding storms pulling into this broader trough. So that is why we continue to see the higher rainfall chances here with the lower from Texas through the northern plains. Okay. Now, from this point, though, we need to see what the temperatures are going to do, because it'll be important to understand that precipitation versus evaporation equation. And so today's high temperatures, we're going to be well into the triple digits, and the overnight lows tonight aren't going to cool off below the mid to upper 70s, maybe in parts of Iowa and Nebraska don't even get down below 80. But that heat, notice on Wednesday, the front starts to push through. So we may knock the temperatures back 10 degrees on Wednesday here. Still warmer than normal, but knocking back 10 degrees. While the heat still stays in Texas and kind of pushes a bit farther east into the eastern Great Lakes. The next wave comes out of the northwest, hits the northern plains on Thursday. Got a lot of heat in the New England area on Thursday. And then Friday, that's our main heat wave ahead of the next front, which shows up right here on Saturday. So notice, and I know I'm focusing a lot on the western Corn Belt, but that seems to be a high-risk area right now, given the forecast update here. And we just see again on Saturday a lot of mid to upper 90s ahead of that front that could slice through. So it's that rainfall that comes in on that front that I think is going to be most critical. Because as we use the ensembles to see where the temperatures are going to be, you just notice that as we play through the middle of this month. So let's just get out there. Here it is. That would be through the 13th. 14th, 15th. We'll park this out here on the 17th. You do notice that the pattern is really setting up something like this, with the main ridge sitting there. So we just get concerned about regional drought development in the plains with this pattern, really from the plains to back to Montana. And we want to know how far to the north the extent of the monsoon is and what the rains do look like here, kind of centered on the eastern Great Lakes and Ohio Valley. Real quick, wild card here. Tropical systems. Could we produce something in the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, or just off the southeast coast? Sure, but there's a lot of dust still here coming off the Sahara that's suppressing the season. We'll watch for any pattern change. I talk about it in this morning's report, and give that a good look, because I also include the new CPC guidance for August, and I also compare that to the European model. Hopefully that's some useful information for you. I will talk to you again very soon. Thanks.